Hello Reef friends, welcome to a new episode. This is already, I think, the episode 14. So if you ever wonder how that reef tank looked like before, or a couple months or almost a year ago, go back to my channel and look up some of the newer videos. I added them all to a playlist, so that way you can find all the relevant videos from the past couple months in the year. But this one is again a video. I think I have like around 3 big topics. One is I cleaned my sump again. I always do every 3 months, so I want to show you guys a couple things there. And on the little nano tank, I got some new friends in there. And very crazy enough, baby clownfish. So you see these 2 guys, they are guarding the eggs down there. And I calculated the time the eggs take to hatch. So usually between 8 and 10 days they should hatch. But I tell you guys a little bit later about this. Let's start with the big tank, like we always do. Cool thing, all my chromis and actually my 2 antias are out at the moment. That usually changes quite a lot, because when I'm walking around here with my camera in front of the tank, usually all the small fish get super shy and just the large fish are outside, but let's enjoy them while they are out here. It's usually when the big ones get a little bit nervous, then they also kind of disappear in the reef rock. And when you see it, it's definitely a big reef, almost too big. I think I mentioned that every single time I do these update videos. But now there's definitely quite a lot of things I have to cut back. I don't do that this week or today, because I'm actually out of town a lot the next couple weeks. And it's never a good thing to change something when you leave your aquariums alone. So just kind of try to keep everything very stable. And that's why I cleaned the whole sump like a week before I leave. Because then also, it's good practice. I do that every kind of, let's say, 3 months. I actually even have an iPhone timer set up that I don't forget about that. Every 3 months, I clean the sump completely out. So I drain the sump, and I do that usually. I have a shop vac. I bought actually specifically a shop vac for that, because you don't want to use a shop vac which has a kind of a metal or stainless steel body or something like this. Buy a super cheap shop vac who has a plastic, everything plastic, because that way nothing really can happen. Then you can really drain it first with a pump, and then you can kind of suck out the sludge on the ground. Scrape it off with an aquarium scraper, and you see that's really nice, pristine, clean here on the bottom, but also sidewall, everything. I didn't really clean here some of these probes. I don't really want to mess too much with them, so I don't kind of go too hard on them, but I take everything out. You see the skimmer body, pretty clear. You see my reef mat here, who just now made that weird noise. That's actually when it expands the roll. But also that one is nice and clean. Yeah, look at that nice skimmer body there. It's I actually don't really get that question often, but just in case you're wondering kind of how I set my skimmer, or you maybe even think it's set quite low. I always set my skimmer to the lowest position so that the water is all the way down, because it's still doing its thing. And when I try to, sometimes online I read, you should set the water level to the neck position. So in kind of that area where that red plastic is. But then I just kind of feel sometimes you have then the issue that the thing overflows constantly. So that way, when it's set super down, it takes a while to create skim mate, but then you also have like nice dry skim. I feel like that kind of works definitely the best for my aquarium here. So all good. So I have to move my little light back here. Also here, if you wonder what that is, it's a Reef LED 50. And I have here like a special kind of brackets. That bracket is the short one, which is actually for my little nano tank. That bracket belongs up here, but you see here I actually have the Cassil AP700, so I moved that down because the original mounting arm of that Reef is much higher, and I kind of don't want the distance here between the light and the water level. I don't want to have it much bigger, so that's actually a perfect position there. And that light gets kind of hot. I mean, it's still a LED, but it gets hot. So that's why I have here in chamber 2 a little fan. So that one is blowing here from the opening, cool air inside, and then obviously it goes here through also into the other chamber and escapes then on the back top there where the pipes go out. So that actually works pretty good. There's definitely, it's not getting sticky or super warm inside there, so the air can nicely escape, and then you also don't have any issues that the humidity would go up crazy in that section. Big fan of a frag tank in the sump, because that really works the best for me. I tried it once in my little Max Nano, and the problem was always the nutrients, and here I have the perfect water, because in the end all their parent corals are growing up here, and then I can use exactly the same water and run it down here in the sump. I set the light inverted to the light above, so now that light is just on, that I can show you guys all the things here on the video, but usually that is off, and it's coming on at 9 o'clock in the night, I believe, and goes to 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's just kind of when there's nighttime upstairs here, there's daylight downstairs, and vice versa. So that's why I also try to a little bit, it helps a tiny little bit with the pH to kind of try to balance that out, since I have then a little bit kind of photosynthesis on the corals down here, but it's obviously not the same like you would have if you would grow the jet to algae or something like this. Then also here, filled everything up. The little bucket there in the back, I actually wanted to buy a new one, but still kind of, I don't want to spend like $50 on a new bucket, just that I have a different bucket. But they make a little bit bigger ones for that, because the All for Reef, which is inside that one, that lasts me around 16 days. And if I would have double the size, I could always almost go up to a month. So that would be cool if I would only have to refill that once a month. Yeah, but for now I keep that one and just kind of fill it up here and there. Then you see here again my CO2 scrubber. That also is doing perfectly its thing. It's so much easier. I just kind of love how I can kind of just snap that open here and discharge all the media instead of trying to put everything through a tiny hole. But other than this, it's doing its thing. It keeps my tank pretty stable at around 8.1-ish, 8.2 pH during the day, and goes back to like 8 during the night. And I have to say, because there's quite a lot of CO2 absorbing media in there, and because maybe you saw that in a previous video, it actually has here in the bottom, like there's a little bit water inside there that it keeps the media moist. That works actually pretty good, and I get almost a month out of life of that one. That's great. I definitely don't want to change that much earlier. Then on the top, if I maybe close here quick, the doors on the top, nothing big changed. I also didn't really clean the sand. So look friends, that's absolutely non-vacuumed, non-cleaned sand, which is just laying in there for, I think the last time I really touched it is definitely over a month. And it's just pristine clean. And you guys maybe remember when I had that big cyano outbreak where everything was absolutely full. There's still a tiny little bit traces here on the side, but that's kind of absolutely nothing to how I had it before. It was like the tank was It was a red carpet there on the bottom. And I think what I, after a while, figured out is also that my RO water almost had, you know, like when you should have like 0 TDS on your RO water, your top-off water. Mine almost had 0.10. So there was definitely a little bit stuff going in there, and we have kind of weird water here. So when I look in the shower, there's always a tiny little bit of black film sometimes. Not necessarily mold, but just tiny little black film. And I just wonder if I kind of somehow, with not really paying good attention to my RO water, run into that issue with the cyano. Who knows? At the moment, I definitely keep a very good eye on that, and every time I make a new batch of RO water, I actually measure it with a TDS meter. You can buy them super cheap on Amazon. They're maybe $10 or something like this. I definitely would recommend do that. Gets good water inside your tank, because if you don't put good water inside your tank, how should then good things happen inside? So definitely take a look for that. Then the thing I have to remove here soon is that big guy. That Anacropora, I definitely do good amounts of frag. That one, also that big green one here, the slime ball, like literally more or less everything I have to cut back. Also probably for the first time that acro here, the acro on the top, because it really gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's kind of cool, because when you think I can now remove some of these, that one here actually broke off and just kind of shoved it a little bit back in there, that little strain here. I can slowly remove that and just replace it with cool acros. So when you look there in the middle, where it's the tiny little green, there's a new acro, which I actually just put a frag there. It's encrusting now and hopefully growing soon. So I hope, and that's the whole journey of a reef tank, that you in the beginning you can have fast growing corals which kind of fill out the tank, which give you that beautiful look you see here. And then after a while, these fast growers you just replace with nice acros, just step by step, so you can have a whole journey with a reef tank. Because other than this, it's almost like back in the days when you build a sand castle. As soon as you build that thing, I mean, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to now look every day for years now into the same tank? It's just kind of, I feel like I almost went over the peak on that tank. I'm kind of almost doubtful if it ever will look better than how it looks now, or actually how it looked a couple months ago, because now it's already a little bit much. So I have to cut things back and just see the change, how it goes. But for this, that I don't have to worry too much about that tank, I actually started here, the little nano tank. And on that tank, maybe you remember it from last time, I said it, I want to do something completely different. So I don't really want to copy what I have on the other tank. The idea here was one big rock, and it was actually that big rock because I had that left laying around in my garage. And why not just use it? Especially if I already have the tank, if I already have the rock. I think the only thing I really bought was the sand. And you might think now, well, but that rock is pretty big in that aquarium. What you're doing then with all the corals that growing on that one? The idea is actually that I don't do any corals, and you see it here. It's I mean, they sold it to me as a black widow anemone, and the idea would be that I have a clownfish anemone only tank, and hopefully then over time that anemone is splitting, and just that I have more and more and they cover all the rock and all that stuff. I'm still debating if I maybe should add some other colors or something like this. At the moment I just keep that and just see how it goes. It's kind of, you know, like when you're starting off with reef tank, like nothing can go fast enough, and on that one I'm kind of almost, well, doesn't look very good, but just patient. I just ride it out. I just try things. I put that inside, wait maybe a couple of weeks, and then if it's doing good, let me see if I add one more. You see, I still have a little bit, or actually not a little bit, that's an understatement. Still have a ton of these hair algae all over the rock. But it's definitely much more. And kind of 4 weeks ago or something like this, it was filled with like all kinds of even cyano and probably dinos and everything. It's just kind of a lot of stuff. And now it actually balanced it out a little bit. So I just have the hair algae, or that kind of mossy green algae. And I put quite a lot of more snails inside. Here is one. These, what are they called? Margarita snails or Mexican turbo snails. I also have somewhere inside. And I bought actually something I never had before. An urchin. A black rock urchin, because supposedly they eat a lot of algae. But that guy, I have it now for a week. It's actually not doing a lot, unfortunately. I hope it makes it, because there's definitely a lot of food in the tank, but maybe I kind of, just not a urchin specialist. The cool thing here, I told you guys before, is here on the very back, I had a little male. He is always there. He wants to make sure these eggs are safe. It's probably very hard to even show you where they are, because they're here on the back of that rock. You see all the eggs, and when you actually go closer, you even see the eyes of the larvae inside the eggs. Like you even see the little eyes. And because I go out of town and because I'm totally not prepared, there's almost a 0 or maybe only a 1% possibility that they even make it in that tank. But I still I try it. If I can catch a couple of them, I try to put it maybe in that little acclimation breeder box thing I have or something like this. But I was kind of reading a little bit on the internet, and it's definitely possible to breed the clownfish, but you have to do certain things, that you have to have these rotifiers, and like it's their food when they are super baby larvae. You need to have everything ready, and things with air stone, because they probably just would get shredded in the pump because they're so tiny. Yeah, I try it, 1%. Maybe, since I have probably 200 eggs, maybe one fish will make it. Subscribe, you will see it, definitely. I mean, I for sure will make a video if I have a little fish that kind of makes it, and show you guys. Definitely check into the channel to see what's going on with these ones. But I think I never really thought about breeding these guys. And you see, they constantly go there. I think I was reading they checking on them if they are doing well. So that's why he doesn't really like it when I'm here close. They just come and being angry against me. They want me away from their eggs, which actually I totally understand. I just think then once these little larvae are hatching, I'm not sure if they're still good parents or if they not just would think they are food and going and eat them. But I tell you more next time. The anemone is doing good. You see it's weird attached. It always goes there back into the rockwork. So let me then see what that one is doing, but it's just kind of doing its thing in here. I did something I never had before, but I put here my little anemone guard on my Nero 3. It's actually just running 15% or 20%, so it shouldn't really do any damage to the anemone if it ever would kind of get sucked into it. Yeah, that's the tank. Like, I definitely try to absorb my brain here a little bit on that tank, that I don't want to change too much on the other one here. It's just cool if you have the space, if you have kind of the budget or the money that you can have 2 tanks going, split it up and try something new. That's a cool thing. Yeah, that's almost it. I actually also, for that tank, since I have now the clowns inside, I'm a big fan of these kind of automatic feeders. It's a Eheim feeder. You can Google it on Amazon. They're actually pretty cheap. I think that one was new, like $20. And then just the only thing you have to make sure is you have something like that thing here, like a ring, because when the food falls into the aquarium, and you don't have like a feeder ring like this, it just gets kind of, most likely the pellets all go into the overflow. And if you have a ring like this and they fall inside, so they stick inside till they go then completely underwater, and it's much better. I have them on both tanks. Also here, you see the other one. Don't go fancy, it's pretty simple. That whole setup is maybe $40, but you can automate the food for the fish, and then obviously ultimately also for the corals. And it makes it so much easier to dial in your tank. You know, like I always had some issues that my tank had not enough nutrients and stuff like this. So the only thing you can do if you have a little bit low nutrients, you just add a cycle on that feeder here and let it go for 1 or 2 weeks, and then measure again and adjust accordingly. Yeah, I love automation. Just kind of taking the factor out that you maybe forget to feed the fish. And then you can always add some live food or something like this in the days off, just kind of, and some nori, algae and stuff like this. You can always add that then after the fact. But yeah, my fish mostly, I mean, that fish tank here almost exclusively only gets these Reef Nutrition TDO Chroma pellets, or whatever the name is. And everything is doing just fantastic. Even the fish. I don't know if they're today a little bit fast here, but if I get my convict tank up there, he is pretty fat. Also that's Atlantic blue tank. Oh, here you see. Yeah, fat fish, because they get a lot of food. It's good. Keeps them calm and tidy there, because I get kind of grumpy too if I don't get enough food. So just make sure you give them enough food, but also make sure you have the filtration. So that's why I have the reef mat and the skimmer, just to make sure that I can feed a lot and do that in a sustainable way, not that kind of I ended up with like a bunch of nitrates and phosphates. A new friend here, it's not a coral, it's an orchid that doesn't really want to grow, and yeah, it's just now a guest in that room. And yeah, I mean, I was now actually thinking about mangroves. So that's an orchid. I can obviously not put that into my reef tank, but could it not be cool having a little mangrove growing out of these tanks? I saw a lot of pictures on the internet. Not sure if that really fits on my tank, but I think it's just a cool thing. Well, I think that's it. Always when I'm a little bit over the 20 minutes mark, I get a little bit nervous that you guys are kind of fall asleep in front of the YouTube channel here. But that's it for this month. Thank you for checking in. If you want to see if the baby thing happens or not, subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.